Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions with my co-host Stacie here to talk about Smile. This is the continuation of Halloween month. The movie's description reads as follows. After witnessing a bizarre, traumatic incident involving a patient, a psychiatrist becomes increasingly convinced she is threatened by an uncanny entity. The movie was written and directed by Parker Finn. This is his feature-length debut on both fronts. His other work is on a couple of shorts, one of which is actually the basis of this movie.
Right.
Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a sport podcast, so if you haven't watched the movie, I highly recommend you come and check it out. Go and check it out, and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms of this podcast is now available on, please follow and feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Corman Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to our channel. All right, so I do have a shout-out.
All right, what do we got?
And that's for Jessica Swift, a friend of mine, who was actually the original person who recommended I go watch this movie.
Okay.
She actually showed me the trailer. And yeah, that's the whole reason that we're talking about this. Because,
So,
yeah,
had you watched this previously?
I had. When it was coming out, she told me about the movie. And she sent me the trailer. And I watched it and was like, oh, that's...
So back in 2022,
yeah,
when this movie released.
Yeah. That was I thought it was pretty intriguing, so I went and checked it out.
Okay.
And if I hadn't, I don't know that we would be talking about this now. I mean, you had seen it, but still,
I saw it, and within the last year or so,
I would not have suggested it if not for that. So yeah, the film is based on Parker Finn's short film Laura Hasn't Slept. There's actually a woman here, Caitlin Stacie. She reprises her role as Laura in the feature-length version of the short, as a woman who kills herself in front of Rose.
Yes.
So, Stacie, let me know your thoughts on this.
All right. So, like
movie.
I said, I had watched it once before we decided to cover it. It's a good movie. It's not like one of my favorite horror movies, but it's watchable. It's fun. And I feel like it's maybe a little better than some of the other movies we're talking about this month.
The quality is a little bit more up there.
This is a little bit more of a Hollywood release than some of the more niche stuff that we've been talking about.
Right, yes.
And we'll talk about as the month goes on. Happy October, everybody.
Right.
But it's very timely because the sequel to this film, Smile 2,
Yep.
Is releasing on October 18th.
Which is a couple days after this should drop, because when I realized when the sequel was coming out, I'm like, oh, well, this is where I'm putting it on the schedule then.
Yeah.
It just makes sense. The only returning castmate that I noticed when looking at the Internet Movie Database page for that movie was Kyle Gallner.
Right.
My assumption is he's going to be the main star of that movie.
He's not.
He's not?
So I don't know a lot about it. Again, we are recording this early, so we are not a couple days before it releases.
Right, yeah,
when we're currently talking. We're a couple months in the past right now. But from what I understand, it follows a pop star who witnesses one of her friends or somebody in the audience, a friend in the audience, perhaps it said, kill themselves.
Okay.
So she is the star, and I'm thinking she ends up seeking out Joel because Joel must have survived it.
Okay.
So he does appear, but he's not the star. So it's moved on since then, and he must have some kind of I'm going to tell you how this works role.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, I'm sure we'll learn what happened to Joel in the sequel. To fill in the gap of well, how did he survive to get to being in the sequel?
Right. Okay. So I actually have a trivia note. So Internet Movie Database says a couple of days before September 30th, 2022 release, actors from the film showed up at various baseball games, sitting behind home plate, dead still and smiling while staring into the camera, unmoving despite fans in the audience being understandably concerned, while wearing smile shirts. Another soon appeared in the background with the crowd during the Today Show.
Yeah, I remember that. They were popping up in different places and doing that creepy smile. And the only thing I have to say about that is...
That's kind of messed up, but...
But I remember
terrifying.
Like, it was good publicity, right? That they didn't even say what they're doing. They just, had these publicity stunts going. But all I had to say is, why isn't Jamie Maguire involved in these movies?
Exactly. That's one of the main weaknesses of this film.
He's not in this film.
We have
as far as I know,
Smile.
he's not in the sequel.
Yeah.
If anybody doesn't know who Jamie Maguire is, friend of the channel, we do have an interview with him. Go check that out. He played Smiley Monster in the series From, which we cover currently season 3 is airing. That
Right.
took me a second.
Yeah.
So he played Smiley Monster, the most beloved monster creature on that series, and he's famous for his gigantic smile. And
Right.
this is a very genuine smile. Jamie has this super creepy smile, and I'm pretty sure that's why he got picked to appear in From. But it was his smile, Jamie's smile, that got the character named Smiley.
Mm-hmm.
And he just has this amazing, creepy smile that fits right into this franchise.
Absolutely.
And I'm saying if we are going to get a third film,
We definitely need to get
Jamie Maguire to have some role in that film.
Absolutely.
Now, he is a Canadian actor, but I'm sure that those kind of details could be worked out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So everybody start writing your letters. These movies are distributed by Paramount Pictures. So get a hold of Paramount, tell them you want to Smile 3, and it has to have Jamie Maguire in it.
Maybe the main star. Smiley.
Well, he has to be a dead person.
Yes, absolutely.
So he can't be the main star, because the main star is somebody running from the Smiley people.
Gotcha.
So he has to be, he has to appear as one of the Smiley creatures.
Absolutely.
Because, duh.
Right.
But yes, we need to get him involved in this series. That's my goal.
I actually did a review of this movie way back when. And
you did?
Yes. One of the things I did say, it was a brief...
One of your...
1 minute movie reviews.
Yeah.
One of the things I said was that this is an allegory for mental illness. And I think that still holds true after watching this film again. It very much feels like that. And it's one of the reasons why I appreciated this film, is it felt like definitely like something that was kind of like an allegory for that. Kind of in the same vein that It Follows was kind of like an allegory.
Well, it's funny because that's my next note is this movie is really just It Follows,
right,
without the sex.
Right.
That's what this is.
Well, it's not the first kind of movie
No. There's plenty
concept.
of movies that
like
talk
The
about
Ring.
a curse that continues. Right. The Ring is one of them that falls into that genre. But yeah, the whole idea that you have a curse and you can survive it by passing it on. The main thing here is you pass it on without surviving it. They find a loophole. In
the case of mental illness, that is something that does get passed down.
Sure.
One, it could be genetic, but two, my point in my original review was that trauma sometimes leads to more trauma.
Absolutely.
You become traumatized and then you end up traumatizing someone else, just like you see in this film. So it definitely fits into that. There's just one thing that I don't quite understand where one plot point fits into that, but other than that, it's a pretty good metaphor for that in my mind.
Okay.
It's one of the reasons why I enjoy this film. I think it is a good film, for the most part.
All right.
So
what we do here, if you are unfamiliar with our format, is we're going to go through the entire film, scene by scene, hit on everything that happened in this movie and talk about it, and talk about all of the actors and the people that we see on the screen. I do have lots and lots and lots of people's names in front of me, so I will be shouting all of them out, and we'll give our thoughts as we go.
All right. So, diving into this thing?
Let's do it.
All right. The film begins with a woman laying in bed, not looking too good.
She's dead.
Right.
This is a dead body we're seeing in this opening scene.
The camera pans over a very messy-looking room until we get to a little girl named Rose. The woman in question is the main character's mother. She's played by Dora Kiss. 11 credits for her, including an episode of Idol, which is the only thing I really recognized from her.
She was in 6 episodes of a show called Lifelike. I don't know what that is, but it seemed like it was her main thing.
Gotcha. The kid is played by Megan Brown Pratt, which is a name that sounded really familiar.
I'll tell you why it sounds familiar.
Okay.
If you didn't figure it out already.
I mean, I think it's something. It's a person that sounds like a.
Okay, so let's talk about the actress first, Megan Brown Pratt. She's in a film called The Leap.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it has anything to do with Quantum Leap, but that's where my mind went.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize anything on her filmography, but I similarly said, do we know this person? Is this an actress we know? Because her name sounds familiar. And I'll tell you why. Megan Pratt is the name of the fictional character in From.
Okay.
Who has a very, very ill-fated
unfortunate
in the opening scene of the the pilot of From. So if anybody hasn't watched From, please go watch it. It's amazing. If you like Smile, you're gonna like From.
Right, absolutely.
And Megan Pratt is the name of that character.
But it's not the name of the actress.
Played by, I don't have that in my notes. What's her name?
I don't remember.
I know her name.
Yeah.
But it's not on the tip of my tongue. So, or it's not coming off of the tip of my tongue anyways. But yeah, that's the character's name is why Megan Brown Pratt sounded familiar, because Megan Pratt's the name of that character.
Gotcha. So Rose wakes up at her job. This was a nightmare. Rose is played by Sosie Bacon, daughter of Kevin Bacon and Kyra Sedgwick. Her debut was in the movie Loverboy, directed by Kevin Bacon, making her the degrees of separation between her and Kevin Bacon 0.
Well, I think that's still 1. 0 would be him himself.
Well, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So it's 1.
So, but we don't play the 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon around here. We play the 5 degrees of Reed Price. Did you find any links to him?
Right, but we can play it now, because now that we've talked about Sosie Bacon,
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the game, is Kevin Bacon, but we make that joke around here about Reed Price, who stars in From, and I guess we could say, because we're comparing this to Jamie McGuire, so I think we're there.
Yeah.
We found Reed a little bit in a very obscure way.
So she was in Closer with her mother, Kyra Sedgwick. 2 episodes of Aquarius would star David Duchovny, who was also from The X-Files. The main star of The X-Files. And 11 episodes of 13 Reasons Why, which has similar themes in it that this movie does.
She's also in 4 episodes of Scream the series.
Okay. So she goes and sees a patient, Carl, who just continuously mutters about people dying. He's played by Jack Sackott. That's my best guess in that one. 62 credits for him, including an episode of Gotham.
That's what I have too. He's in lots of shorts, I noticed. He has a very big shorts career. And so Carl is just repeating that everyone's going to die. Mom's going to die. Everybody dies. He is having a psychotic episode. Which is not related to what's happening in this film.
No.
But it feels like it might when you first meet him. And we also meet Orderly Dan, who's the one that brought Rose in to see him. And Orderly Dan is played by Jared Johnson. He's in 4 episodes of Manifest.
Okay.
As well as an episode of Younger.
Gotcha. All right. Rose puts Carl in observation and tells Nurse Wanda to have someone check on him every couple of hours. She's told that Dr. Deze wants to see her. She's played by Yura Yona Sanchez. 11 credits for her, including Billions and New Amsterdam.
Yeah, an episode of New Amsterdam. She's in an episode of American Horror Story. No. Nope. She's not. She's in an episode of American Sports Story.
I don't even know that.
It hasn't premiered yet.
Okay.
So it's premiering this fall on FX. It might have premiered now that this aired.
Gotcha.
It hasn't premiered yet as of when I'm taking these notes. But yeah, this fall on FX, American Sports Story. So that's the same people as American Horror Story. I have no idea what that's going to be about, but she's in an episode of it.
It's probably similar to American Crime Story, which is okay. So yeah.
Yeah, they're doing their thing.
All right. So she goes and talks to Morgan Deze, who wants to talk.
I'm pretty sure this is Desai.
Desai, okay.
Yeah.
Who wants to ask about a patient she sent to detox with no insurance. She defends this and says she needed treatment. He just says to give him a heads up next time. He's played by Cal Penn. He's pretty famous. He has 89 credits for him, 37 appearances as Lawrence Kuttner in House MD.
Yeah.
And of course is known for the Harold and Kumar movies.
Yeah, he plays Kumar in all of that. They've got like 47 and a half films or something. I made that number up, but yeah.
And he was in Superman Returns.
He's also he is in American Horror Story, because she wasn't, so it's not an also.
Okay.
He's in 5 episodes of season 11, which I didn't watch that one.
I also did not watch that one. I stopped long before that. But he also sends her home because she's been there since last night.
Yeah, apparently she's been working like 80-hour weeks, which is not a good thing for a mental health provider to be doing.
No. But it's not uncommon for the doctors and such to work a lot of hours.
Right.
I don't know that much.
It's not good for any health provider to be
working that much.
To be working that much, because they need to be on top of their game.
Right.
And
because if you're not, people die.
Right.
But on her way out of the door, she gets a phone call that she can't resist taking. And she's given the rundown of the patient who witnessed her professor bludgeon himself with a hammer. The new patient is cowered in the room, and she's played by Caitlin Stacie, I think that's the name, who originated this role in the short Laura Hasn't Slept. I think I already talked about that.
Laura Weaver is the character's name.
She nervously talks about seeing people that aren't really people, who smile the worst, most horrible smile at you imaginable. She starts freaking out to the point where Rose calls for help, and then all of a sudden it goes quiet. Rose rounds the corner to see Laura with a horrible smile on her face, who slits her throat and dies.
Yeah, so it's a very crazy scene.
Mm-hmm. And then we get our title sequence, 13 minutes.
13 minutes, yeah, 13 minutes for us of a cold open before we get the opening titles.
Which is pretty crazy.
Setting up, here's what this movie is about. This girl is very, she's scared. She's not, she's not suicidal, she's scared. And then all of a sudden, she's smiling uncontrollably and slits her throat. And even if this movie was not about a curse,
right,
this is going to be hard on Rose.
Oh yeah,
to deal
absolutely.
With.
So,
now, before you move on, Laura Weaver, you mentioned the short. She was also in 44 episodes of a series called Rain. I don't know if you heard of that one.
Nope.
I've heard of it, but haven't seen it. I found this interesting. She was in 283 episodes.
Okay.
Of a soap.
Yeah.
That I've literally never heard of.
Well, what was the soap?
Okay, this soap has over 9,000 episodes.
What?
It's been on the air since 1985.
Okay.
It's called Neighbors.
I've never heard of it.
Never heard of Neighbors.
No.
But it's got over 9,000 episodes, and she was in 283 of them.
That is insane.
I don't understand soaps.
No.
But I was really confused that there's one that's been on the air for 30-something years, and I've never heard of it.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty amazing.
And the nurse that you mentioned before, she's played by Vanessa Cozart. She's in an episode of Manifest, as well as an episode of NCIS New Orleans with Scott Bakula.
That's not Nurse Wanda, is it?
Nope, this is the nurse that just brought her in to
okay,
meet Laura.
Gotcha.
I think she was only in that one scene.
Okay, so she gets questioned about the incident from the police and does not appreciate one of them, and this is Buckley, calling the patient a head case. He's played by Perry Strong. The other detective, Joel, is essentially a co-lead in this movie, played by Kyle Gallner. I know him from appearing on Smallville. He also appeared in The Shield, which I watched, and a movie called Cherry that I happen to really enjoy. In a total, he's got 70 credits.
He's in, I got very different ones than you, so I want to hit some of these. He's in Jennifer's Body, which of course is a kind of cult classic horror weird movie. He was in Scream 5, the one that's just titled Scream.
Right.
But it's actually Scream 5. He's in an episode of The Walking Dead.
Okay.
He's in the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street revival.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And this one I found funny. He's in Haunting in Connecticut.
Yes, I did notice that.
Which we're not covering that one this month.
We're covering it sequel.
We are covering Haunting in Connecticut too.
Maybe next year we'll do Haunting in Connecticut, the original.
Maybe we should. Yeah, we'll go backwards on
how
that
about
one.
Perry Strong? What do you have for him?
He was in 2 episodes of Manifest.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got for him.
Gotcha, because I didn't take any note about him at all, other than his name.
And I want to point out, again, I'm sure we have some people here who haven't listened to us before. When we're pulling out credits for people, it's not necessarily their biggest things. All of these people have like tons of great things that they've done. We just kind of pull out things that speak to us and to our channel and other stuff that we talk about.
So Buckley declares the person insane, and that is that. Rose goes home, showers, drinks, and is eventually startled when her husband comes home. Trevor is played by Jesse T. Usher.
He's actually her fiancé.
Okay,
they're not married yet. We do
so,
learn that soon.
It's funny because I see Jesse T. Usher on the screen. This is my initial reaction to seeing him. I'm like, okay, I know him from somewhere, but where? And then I looked into his credits and I realized, oh, he was A-Train on The Boys, which is basically a super-powered show. He plays a guy who can run really fast. It's a really messed up superhero show.
Okay.
It's basically kind of like the superheroes are the good guys, but they're also really, really bad at the same time because power corrupts. And it kind of tackles those themes. 33 credits for him, including The Banker, which I saw. Independence Day Resurgence as the son of the dead Will Smith character. And an episode of the rebooted MacGyver.
He's also in an episode of Tales of the Walking Dead. He's featured in one of those episodes.
Gotcha. Did you recognize him from that?
I did after I saw the credit.
Gotcha. Okay.
I was like, oh yeah, okay.
So after finding out what happened to her patient, he thinks they should cancel dinner with his sister, or with her sister, is what I meant to say. But she insists that it still will happen. And I agree. This dinner should not keep going on. Spoiler alert, dinner does not go well.
Nothing goes well in this film.
No.
I mean,
no.
if you want to be spoiler alert, like, things are going badly for
Right.
this woman.
It's
She's having a rough week.
Right. Her sister Holly's played by Gillian Zinser. 24 credits for her, including 60 episodes of the rebooted 90210. That makes her a regular.
Yep.
The movie Savages, and a movie recently that came out on Netflix called The Guilty. She also has 5 directorial stints, all of them short films. Her husband is played by Nick Arapagoglu.
Arapagoglu?
Yeah, that's my best guess in that one.
Nick.
Yeah.
Nick plays Greg, Holly's husband.
He was in an episode of The Walking Dead and the movie Red Notice. 32 credits for him.
He's also in a movie called Freaky. Have you seen that one?
I have not.
That's one I'd love to cover, although I think we're out of time for what we're going to cover this month. But it is. I watched it just recently, and it was actually it was a fun kind of horror movie. Its working title was Freaky Friday the 13th.
Okay.
If that tells you anything,
Yes.
It's about a teenage girl who she's a famous actress, but I can't think of her name right now. I recognize her from a lot of stuff. She like body swaps with a serial killer. Freaky Friday style.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a fun one.
All right. We'll definitely have to check that one out at some point. Her son's birthday party is brought up, and it's this Saturday, but as of now, Rose has to work.
Yeah, she has to work. She says, I work on Saturdays. I can't go to your kid's 7th birthday party. Holly's not excited about that news.
Right.
We get that they're not really close.
Right. Her husband asks, why become a doctor if you aren't going to be absurdly rich? And, that's kind of a weird sentiment, because I think that would not be the only motivating factor to become a doctor.
Right.
I mean, sure, the money's nice, but you're also there to help people.
Right, that's the whole point, is Holly, or Rose likes to help people.
Right.
And Holly and Greg are just kind of like, we don't get that.
Right.
We don't understand wanting to help people. We're kind of, not that. We're not that person.
So the house they grew up in, which will be a plot point, is brought up in the context of selling it, and dinner goes quickly downhill from here.
Holly wants to sell the house. Rose says,
Yeah.
we can't sell the house. We grew up in that house. They don't understand each other.
And their relationship is not going to get any better.
It's not.
Yep,
Definitely
movie goes along.
not.
So Rose at work gets a visit from Joel, and it's revealed that they had a history together. They used to date.
Yeah, and this is the random cop that she
Right.
interviewed her, that we, in that first scene, had no indication of this, but now that, his partner's not there, he comes by himself, and we definitely understand he is an ex.
Right.
And Rose tells him that he shouldn't be checking up on her.
She's
That's not
fine.
your place.
Right.
Unless you have something about the case you want to talk about. Why
Right.
are you here?
Yeah, she just kind of blows him off. Nurse Wanda tells him after she goes away that, you know that she's engaged, right? But she mentions very cutely, I should add, that she is single, though.
Yeah.
And I found that very amusing. And you know what? I'm rooting for the two of them, but I don't think it's going to work out.
Probably not. I didn't look specifically at Nurse Wanda, but I'm guessing she doesn't reappear in the next
probably
film.
not. I mentioned this is an adorbs moment in my notes, but so she looks into the incident with Laura and her professor. This is Rose looking into this incident, and notes the phrase that he had a smile on his face. Her sister calls to apologize. Rose says she's been going through some stuff. Why wasn't this talked about at all? This is really weird that she has a patient die on her.
Because she's just not that close with her sister.
I guess, but that's just, I think if you have such a traumatic a moment as that not only would dinner get canceled, but
she's trying to ignore it. She's trying to pretend it's not a problem.
which is something that someone who doesn't really deal with their mental health issues would do.
Yeah.
And I guess you're right. It does track with her character.
But Holly's calling to apologize, but really what she's calling to do is say, even though you can't come to my son's birthday, you have to send him a gift, right?
Right.
Because we've already learned this is a very materialistic couple.
She's nicer than that about it, but
No, not really. She's like, you're going to send a gift? He likes trains.
Right.
Which is important.
Yes. So Rose goes and visits Carl, who suddenly repeats over and over that she's going to die with a creepy smile on his face.
Is stuck in that weird smile. And one thing that, Laura had told her about what she was experiencing was sometimes that she's seeing people, right? And sometimes it's people she knows, and sometimes it's people she doesn't know, and sometimes it's people that's been dead for 20 years. So that's why we're going to see, and it's not because these people are possessed, it's because Rose is possessed that she's seeing people appear as these smiley creatures.
Right. So she ends up calling to have him restrained, but when she looks back, he's just laying there in bed. She gets sent to talk to her boss. What's his name again?
Desai,
who questions her treatment of Carl, and he suggests her patient killing herself the previous day might have been the reason for it. He's giving her a paid week off to clear her mind and focus on her mental health. All right, my question is, why is that not standard operating procedure?
I mean, I think it is. I think that's something that is supposed to happen.
Right, so why didn't it
I mean,
happen?
also, it happens in the police force. If you're involved in something traumatic, they bench you.
Right.
And they make you, see a psychiatrist until you're ready to go on the field again.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So my question is, why is she even back to work the next day? She should not be.
Right. But, she works 80-hour weeks, and they probably need her to.
I guess so.
So it wasn't until this incident that he was like, oh, wait, we need to address this.
Right.
So, yeah, she doesn't like the idea of taking a week off, but she doesn't really have a choice.
So we have this really weird upside-down shot on her way home.
There's a lot of weird and cool cinematography in this film.
And yeah, Parker Finn, this is his first feature-length film, but he's amazing, and he's getting, he's directing and writing the next one as well. On her way home, she buys a train for her nephew's birthday.
She goes to the hobby store. She buys the train that her sister told her to buy. So she's listening to her sister.
Right, yeah. Home alone, she wraps her presents and drinks
some
as
more
she
wine.
does a lot.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think that maybe she has a problem.
Well, she has a bad way of dealing with things.
Yes. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm any better, but still. Her alarm is...
Do you have a drinking problem, Dave?
Well, no, but I don't necessarily handle problems in the best, most healthy way.
But not in this manner.
No, I'm not a drunk. I just have other ways to not deal with my problems the right way.
Oh, don't we all?
And then her alarm mysteriously goes off.
Yeah, the house's security alarm.
She gets
this causes her to drop another glass. She dropped a glass the night before when her husband came home and startled her. And he'll soon be like, you broke another glass? Like, what the hell are you doing? So she broke the glass. The security company calls.
Yes.
And it's not really a security company.
Yeah, the person says something alarming. And then we get a call from the real company.
Yeah, and when the phone rings the second time, she realizes the phone that's in her hand that she's talking to the fake security company on isn't even in her hand. It's still across the room on the cradle. So it's like we're edging into like this weird creepiness of what she's dealing with. Where could this be psychosis? It definitely could be. Where it makes sense that everyone in her life thinks she's just losing her shit.
Well, I mean, I was going to bring this up later, but the way she acts throughout the film, you see somebody acting like that and they're telling you all these crazy things. Are you going to believe them? No, you're going to think this person is insane. Right. That they need help.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that doesn't really help her case. And I think that's intentional by the powers that be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is how this happened to her in the first place. Yeah. Because Laura was brought to her as a mental patient.
Mm-hmm. And she was acting crazy.
And she was very adamant, like, I'm not crazy. I'm a PhD student.
Right.
I'm telling you, something is happening. And you're not the person I need to talk to about it.
So the police visit, and of course find nothing. Her husband comes home during this.
Well, the police, let me hit them really quick. Yeah. Our officers Chan and Officer Wilkes. Chan is played by Shu Q. Wilkes is played by Chevy Gutierrez. Gutierrez is in an episode of Manifest. We got a lot of Manifest people. And he has 37 other credits, and more than half of them are cops.
Right.
So he's very typecast.
Gotcha.
Very typecast as a police officer.
All right, so...
And they tell her the house is clear. They're like, are you sure you didn't just leave the door unlocked? Like, they're like, nothing's wrong here. Why are we here?
So, her husband comes home during the middle of this and asks what's happened. She never really answers the question. She can't find her cat, which is going to be a really unfortunate plot point.
The cat Mustache is not around. Yeah. He's not coming to eat. And
she ends up insisting she's okay, despite the fact that she's not acting like she is.
She tells Trevor that she doesn't even remember setting the alarm.
Right.
So everyone's assuming that she just tripped the alarm accidentally at this point.
She has a nightmare of her mother and plays back the recording of the incident with Laura and then gets a jump scare by something.
Okay, so she's listening to an audio recording of Laura's session. And she hears a whisper. And she enhances the audio, and she ends up hearing her own name being whispered.
Huh.
And actually, I never heard this at all, but this is what the
Closed
subtitles showed
captioning
me.
told you? Okay.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to bring this up the way I watched this to take notes. I'm glad this is a Prime one because Prime has X-ray.
Right.
And sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. It was really helpful in this one. So I was watching it with subtitles and X-ray turned on, so I couldn't even see a lot of the screen because I just had so much stuff overlapping.
Yeah.
But X-ray on this one was amazing at telling me exactly what actors are on the screen at what time, which really helped me, in the way I try to organize my notes.
Right.
But yeah, the whisper was somebody saying her name in the recording, which she knows that didn't happen in the room. Like, what is this? Calling her name. And that was this entity curse thing taking her. That's what the moment that happened.
Gotcha.
Yeah, she listens to it over and over, and then we get another jump scare. This movie is just full of jump scares, right? It's lots and lots of quiet, subdued moments, and then we get this giant jump scare. And that's really the tone of this film. And she sees a dead, smiley creature person. And I couldn't tell. Was this the mom actress? Was this the Laura actress?
I didn't know.
I wasn't sure, but it was somebody who isn't really there and has a smiley face on.
So she ends up freaking out, sending her husband in, who just sees her becoming unglued and acting crazy.
Yeah, she grabs a knife. She basically pulls a knife on her husband, is what it appears to be happening.
She goes and visits her psychiatrist, played by Robin Weigart. 80 credits for her, including a regular on Justin Hartley's series Tracker.
Yeah, she's been in all 14 episodes so far.
5 episodes of American Horror Story, and 15 Sons of Anarchy episodes.
She's also in 3 episodes of Castle Rock, which is a Stephen King adaptation. She's in 2 episodes of Lost.
Oh, okay, that part I missed.
Yeah. I didn't recognize the character name. I'm assuming it's a flashback or one of those side characters.
Yeah.
And the character's name here, which you didn't mention yet, she's Dr. Madeline Northcott.
That's right.
Who is going to recur through the rest of this film.
So she ends up suggesting, so first she's kind of like skeptical that the incident...
So Rose tells her. Rose hasn't told anybody yet, like what she's experiencing.
Right.
But she tells Northcott all of this. Like, she's opening up to her. She's a mental health professional. She understands she needs to talk to somebody. At
the same time, Northcott is kind of dismissive of the initial incident causing any kind of problems.
Right. So
which is kind of...
We'll soon learn that what Rose is really doing is she's trying to get a prescription.
Oh, okay.
She asks her for some drugs, and Northcott's like, nah, let's not do that.
Right.
And she's like, don't self-diagnose yourself.
Right, yeah.
And she thinks that this has something to do with her mother.
Right.
Which we kind of hint at the incident with the mother throughout the film, and we don't learn till later what really happened with the mother. I'm wondering, does Northcott know what really happened with the mother?
I probably not. But I agree that the incident that she experienced kicked up things involving her mother.
Oh, sure.
At the same time, I'm not sure I get
At
why
the same time, she's cursed.
Right. Well, I'm also not so certain why she's so dismissive of a person killing themselves right in front of her. I get, she says that, like a person you knew for 2 seconds, that's going to affect you. I mean...
Well, okay, because Rose was saying, she blames herself and she feels guilty. And the doctor's like, well, you shouldn't feel guilty. Like, because she was my patient.
Right.
You just met her. She wasn't like a patient you saw week after week. This was your very first time meeting her.
Gotcha, yeah.
And she was trying to tell her, like, you shouldn't feel guilty for her death. Because what could you do?
Right.
Like, you just met her. It's not like you had time to, like, help her.
Right, no. All right, so after the scene, she goes to her nephew's birthday. She's very quiet and awkward. But then we get to the opening of the presents. And, oh my God.
We have a couple people here.
Yeah.
We meet a character named Stephanie right off the bat, who just wants advice from Rose as soon as she finds out she's a mental health provider. Stephanie's played by Sarah Kapner. I didn't grab any credits for her. The nephew, this is the person whose birthday party this is. His name is Jackson, and he's played by Matthew Lamb. He's in an episode of Only Murders in the Building.
I noticed that.
He plays the young version of Steve Martin's character.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So he's young Steve Martin in that show.
Okay.
So yeah, he's they're excited that Rose is there because she had told them she wasn't going to make it.
Right.
And yeah, he goes to open the gifts. He opens Rose gifts, and the model train box is in the wrapping paper.
Right.
But he opens the box, and
yeah, it's not a train.
It's not a train.
It's a dead cat.
It's Mustache the cat, very dead.
Which, by the way, in addition to doing the movie review of this movie, I also did a PSA about how it's suggesting that giving your nephew a dead cat is not a very good birthday present.
Well,
and not to do it.
Now, here's the thing. Rose is just as horrified about this as everybody there. Now, the parents, her sister and the husband, they're going to blame her and be like, you killed your cat and wrapped it up for my son?
Right.
Like, go away now.
Right.
I don't know why they didn't, call for help and try and get her locked up right then and there.
Right. No, they just let her leave.
Yeah.
Well, actually, she ends up in the hospital.
Okay, yeah. So what happens is she ends up, she's so upset, she backs up and she falls through a glass table and now she's covered in cuts. So she does end up in the hospital. But this whole course of events should have led to her
being committed?
Being held.
Right.
What is it, a 48-hour hold or
Psych
a 72-hour hold?
Yeah, something along those lines.
That should have happened at this point. Her cat is dead and wrapped in a present for her nephew.
That's some serious.
Does nobody tell that story?
Right.
To anybody?
Well, her boss ends up showing up at the hospital, and I was wondering, does he know what exactly happened?
He can't. It's impossible because he would not have just let her walk out of there.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
She's like, oh, it was just a. They told him that she had an anxiety attack, and she's like, it was just an accident. I cut myself. Whatever.
She looks
but
better.
The fact that the cat is dead in a wrapped box, and she's just like, I didn't do it. Well, who did it, Rose?
Right.
Nobody's going to believe you that some entity that you keep saying is not a ghost.
Right.
Even though you haven't told anybody that yet. No one's going to believe you.
Right.
But she's, of course, very upset because her cat's dead. Her cat was murdered. And she's taking the blame for it.
Yeah, and she's pretty traumatized by that. So her husband ends up driving her home, where she starts to tell him that she isn't crazy by acting crazy.
She finally is opening up to somebody besides the doctor, and she tells him what's going on with her, and he doesn't take it really well.
I mean, at this point, would you?
Well, he's not compassionate.
Right. No.
He's not helpful.
See, I definitely do not like this character in this film. I wasn't really a huge fan of this performance from Jesse T. Usher. I wasn't sure if I should blame that on the actor.
Well, I don't think you're supposed to like him.
Or the writer, or this is by design.
Yeah, I don't think we're supposed to like him.
Okay.
Because he's not meant to be helpful. Joel's meant to be the helpful person that she turns to. Because if her husband was more supportive, maybe she wouldn't have needed to turn to Joel.
Right.
Right? So, or not her husband, her fiance. He's just basically like, you crazy. And instead of offering any way to help her, he's just like, I can't deal with you. Go away.
Right. He basically insinuates that he thinks that she has inherited her mother's mental illness. And he looked this up, and mental illness can be passed down. That's what he thinks is going on here.
Yeah. But instead of being like, hey, let's talk to somebody. Let's figure this out. He's just like, I'm going to go sleep on the couch.
Right, yeah. He's not a very good a person for her in this situation, that's for sure. So she looks more into the incident with the worst professor and doesn't like the darkened room. She keeps expecting something to come out from it.
And there's a voice kind of whispering in the hallway.
Gotcha.
She ignores it. She doesn't go investigate it. But she's hearing things. There's stuff happening.
I think I need to watch this movie on closed captioning.
You need to watch everything we cover on closed captioning because it does expose a lot of things you miss otherwise.
Yeah. So she tries to sleep, but of course she doesn't. She goes to visit the professor.
And she hears, while she's trying to sleep, she hears her mother pleading for help. We hear Mom saying, Rose, please help me. Which, in this moment, it feels like it's just the entity talking to her, but maybe this is just her brain talking to her because we'll later learn that's a memory, not necessarily a haunting.
So she goes to visit the professor's wife, who she thinks the professor's wife thinks she's a reporter. Yeah,
and the professor's wife, the character's Victoria Muna. How do you say that name?
Munez?
I'm so sorry.
She's played by Judy Reyes.
Judy Reyes, yes.
Who I know from Scrubs.
Right. She was in 169 episodes of Scrubs.
Yep, she was a regular on that series, playing Carla, Turk's wife. She has 84 credits, including an episode of Succession, The Batwoman, and The Circle.
She's also in 4 episodes of Better Things. I watched that series. And 10 episodes of One Day at a Time, the remake.
Okay. So she describes his behavior but eventually gets mad at her when she realizes she's not a reporter.
Remember, this is the guy that Laura witnessed
Right.
killing himself. So that we're following the trail back. So somebody kills himself in front of somebody else, and then that person goes through it. So we're going backwards now, and it was Gabriel Muniz who was Laura's person. And we actually have an uncredited role for him. He's played by Felix Melendez Jr. Again, it's uncredited because we don't see him speak, but we do get to see like some crime scene photos and
Pretty gruesome
there's some
stuff.
gruesome stuff. Yeah, but basically he was totally fine until he wasn't.
Right.
And it was about a week that he wasn't fine, and the wife, mentions that it all started after he went to a conference.
Yep.
And at this conference, he witnessed somebody killing himself.
Right.
And that according, what the wife thinks is he just went kind of cuckoo after that. Of course, this means something to Rose. She wants to know the name of that person, but the wife doesn't know.
In desperation, she goes and visits Joel, thus sealing his fate in this film. She's here for a favor, but doesn't want any questions. And of course, he's not very happy with any of this. He got blown off earlier, and now she wants to show up on his doorstep on his day off, asking for a favor. She wants to know if the professor was involved in any other police reports. He doesn't want to help in any way, but ends up doing it anyway.
Yeah.
The professor was involved something a week prior with a woman named Angela.
Angela Powell, and again, I have an uncredited role for her. She's played by Anne Schmalzgigen.
I wouldn't even have attempted that.
And we get another really graphic crime scene photo. Her face is twisted and it's pretty. Yeah, these uncredited actors had some interesting makeup done to them for these photos.
Yeah, my note here is the crime scene photo is not pleasant.
Joel's taken aback by it.
Yeah.
He's kind of curious what the heck he's getting involved in
And mind
at this
you,
point.
Joel is a cop.
Right.
So it's not like he's new to happening upon bad crimes.
Right.
So the fact that it's even throwing him is, crazy. So they then look into Angela, and sure enough, there was another incident with her 4 days prior at a gas station suicide.
And this time we get security footage of it. We get to see the incident, and this guy that Angela witnessed at the gas station, he is smiling with that creepy smile, and then he just kills himself. And this, of course, looks very bizarre to Joel, but I think Rose has figured it out by now. She knows what's going on.
So,
and she asks him if he has a printer, and he
Right.
prints all this crap out for her.
She goes home where her fiance has called her therapist. She rips him to shreds, and then she ends up leaving. Hard to not feel like she isn't being a little bit unfair here,
She
but
is being a little bit unfair, but they did kind of ambush her with
Right.
this. They weren't being really nice about it. Now,
Right.
I do commend he finally did something to help her.
yes,
He did do the right thing by looking for help.
right,
But them just kind of sitting in her living room and waiting for her and then being like, hey, we're having an intervention.
yeah,
And then just letting her leave.
right, yeah.
I don't think it played out well.
No. So she goes and talks to her sister and gets a very cool reception there.
Yeah, Greg doesn't even want to let her see Holly. Holly finally talks to her.
I mean, can you blame either one of them for acting like this?
I can't. No, she
No.
showed up at their son's birthday
Right.
party with a dead cat wrapped in a present.
Yeah.
She decides to tell her sister that she's cursed and about the entity, and says that the entity is who killed Mustache. And she starts showing Holly all these crime scene photos, and Holly's just like, what are you doing?
Right.
I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
She's acting completely crazy here.
And
once
Holly
again,
speaks
yeah,
out and says, you're acting just like Mom.
Right.
And she has the same reaction that what's his name? That Trevor did.
Mm-hmm.
Where this is what Mom dealt with, and now you're dealing with it, and you need help.
Right.
But Holly's not trying to get her help. She's just trying to get her off of her porch.
Right. Going back to her car, she thinks she sees her sister, but it's an entity who bends her neck in an unreal way.
Yeah, it's another crazy jump scare where
This,
Holly knocks on the window, and then her whole head flips upside down.
this shot was actually in the trailer, and I'm like, oh wow, this looks kind of crazy when I watched the trailer.
It reminds me a little bit of the bent neck lady, Haunting a Hill House.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that, but it's more bent. It's like completely upside down. And it's obviously not, Holly's not really there. Holly's still in the house. She
Right.
never came to the car. And then Jackson, the nephew, is kind of watching his aunt freak out in the car from the window. We can see, like, nobody's there. She's just freaking out on her own. He can't see anybody.
I'm pretty positive that this is the last time we see these characters.
I think so.
I don't think we revisit them. She gets a call from Joel. He's been doing some digging. There's been 20 cases, 19 suicides. There is one alive. He went and killed some random person, and the pattern resumed with a witness.
Yeah, so Robert Talley was the man. So he killed a neighbor, and then the neighbor's wife is the one who inherited it and ended up killing herself. So he's still alive. They decide they got to talk to this guy, right? Because he must have some answers. So they drive to Altoona, to the prison where Talley's being kept at. And apparently off camera, Rose filled Joel in on all of this.
Yes.
Because we pick up with him being like, I don't know what to believe.
Right. And Joel says that no one in this pattern survived more than a week, some not even 4 days. They go and talk to Robert Talley. He's played by Rob Morgan, 86 credits for him, including a couple of appearances on This Is Us as Randall's opponent for city council. And it's funny because although I covered This Is Us, it was after these episodes, so he did not appear in any episodes that I actually talked about.
No, I thought those were later episodes, huh?
No, they were actually season 3 episodes.
Oh, I get confused when things happen.
And I didn't start covering the series until like halfway through season 4, and then I did the entirety of season 1, but I have yet to talk about season 2 or 3.
Okay. He's also in 16 episodes of Stranger Things.
Yep.
5 episodes of Lawman Bass Reeves, which is a character that appeared in a Timeless episode.
And he was also in a movie called Just Mercy, which is a movie I happen to really enjoy, too.
And the sheriff deputy that brought them in to see Talley, he's played by Stephen Strickland. He is also in one episode of Only Murders in the Building.
Did you recognize him?
No.
Okay. So after making Joel leave, he says that the entity needs trauma. So if you make someone else witness a horrific event, say a murder, you can pass the entity on. Talley soon realizes that she herself has it, and tells her to get the heck out of there because he's not taking it.
She was lying to him, right? Yeah. And she's like, oh, my patient, this happened to my patient, which is true. But she skipped the fact that the patient's already dead, and now she's the one dealing with it. It's the like, hey, my friend, I have a question for my friend, right? She's not admitting it's her. And then when she finally does admit it's her, because he says, well, if your friend kills somebody and there's a witness, then your patient can live. And she's like, I can't kill somebody. That's when he realized it's her. And he's like, what? You're not giving it back to me. He was scared. He was scared that she was going to kill himself right then and there, and he was going to catch it again.
Right.
And I don't blame him.
Right.
For having that reaction.
No. So this is the one thing that confused me in the whole idea of this being a mental illness allegory. I didn't quite understand how going to murder someone else as a means to stop the entity kind of fit into that allegory, and I don't think it really does. I don't think there's a way I can like really try to fit that in, but still.
Oh, and you know what? I misspoke earlier when I was saying it was the neighbor's wife or whatever. That was actually not the person Talley killed that happened to. That was the story Talley tells here about research he did of someone else.
Okay.
Someone else that had escaped it by killing their neighbor, and the wife was the witness. So he's not the first person who's done this. He discovered somebody else who did that, and that's how he knew it was going to work.
So she leaves. She won't tell Joel what he said, which is unfortunate for him, I think. I'm not sure that we're going to see Joel alive in the next movie.
Yeah, why do you you want to tell people, but then you keep not telling them things.
Right.
She's very wishy-washy about how she wants to involve people.
Right. I think that's just how she lives her life in general. And yeah, her mental health problems and the way she chooses to deal with it is also something that, unfortunately, is going to get someone like Joel killed.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But,
so,
I mean, she should have probably given him a heads up at this point of what's going on.
Joel should have probably realized that she was a person to stay away from, honestly, the way...
Yeah, but he clearly, cares about her.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate for him.
Yeah.
She goes home.
She ignores a call from Dr. Northcott, who's trying to get a hold of her.
And then Dr. Northcott seemingly gets a visit, comes and visits her.
Yeah, so okay, so Rose is about to grab a kitchen knife. She's contemplating following through with this and finding someone to murder. But yeah, Dr. Northcott, so she missed the call, so she goes and she's at the door. And Rose has all these case files out, so she quickly puts all of them away, answers the door. She's not happy with Northcott. But she apologizes. She apologizes for ambushing her yesterday, says it wasn't really the right way. Rose wants her to leave, but she says, I have to report you if I think you're a danger to yourself or anyone else. So Rose finally lets her sit down and talk so she can express that everything's fine. She's not a danger because she doesn't want her therapist to know she's about to go murder someone, right?
But then she gets a call, and it's from her actual therapist. The person in front of her is not her therapist.
Yeah, and it's super creepy scene.
Yeah.
Where Dr. Northcott, the real one, is on the phone saying, I've been trying to reach you. I'm very concerned about you. And the woman sitting across from her just kind of turns into the smiley Northcott.
Right.
Who tells her it's almost time.
Ooh. So she ends up sitting in her car with a knife outside the hospital that she works at. And she then goes into the hospital, proceeds to stab Carl to death, and this is being witnessed by her boss.
Yeah, the Dr. Desai comes in and she's stabbing Carl over and over and over in the chest, seemingly taking care of this problem, right? She's killed him. Desai's gonna catch it. He's the next one. Desai rips his face off, which is super creepy.
Right.
And then it was all a dream.
Right.
She's literally still sitting in her car. She hasn't gone into the hospital. She's just kind of contemplating how this might play out.
So she gets a visit by her boss, who doesn't
The real Desai this time.
Right.
Knocks on the car window, asks why she's here, because she's not supposed to be at work.
He notices the knife in the car and starts to panic. But
he's trying to get her to stay, and then she sees the bleeding, smiley Carl character in place of Dr. Desai, and she just drives away.
And she thinks she's come up with a solution as she drives away. Joel calls her because there's an APB out on her.
Finally.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of negligent people in this movie, for
right.
sure.
Finally somebody cares that she's a problem.
So she explains her plan about going someplace alone to hopefully defeat the entity that way. And then she goes to her whole old house that she grew up in. She wanders around the apartment, including including the room her mom died in. She sees her mom in a flashback.
Yeah, now we're finally getting the real history of what happened. So again, she's 10-year-old Rose, except Mom's not dead on the bed this time. Mom's very much alive and asking Rose for help.
And of course, Rose's response to this is to just shut the door.
Yeah.
And
so Mom is saying, Rose, I messed up. Get the phone, call 911. I need help. And Rose's response is to just walk away and let her mother die.
Yeah.
She's responsible for her mother's death, which is what she's really holding on to.
On the other hand, it's quite possible that even if she had called for the ambulance, that her mother still would have died.
Sure, it's possible but she could have done something to try and help, and she chose to actively let her mother die.
Yeah, and on the one hand, that's terrible. On the other hand, she was a little girl. She was kind of overwhelmed by this situation. She's been dealing with her mom, who's basically a monster in her eyes because of the way she acts.
And they'll talk that through in a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get to see that real memory of what really happened. Because the whole movie, we've been told, your mother killed herself, and, you discovered her body. It's not exactly how it played out.
Right.
Mom overdosed, and you let her die.
So,
and she feels guilt for that, but she's never told anybody, apparently.
So her shutting the door and just walking away from the problem, to me, is a metaphor for how she acts in the entire film, really.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How she lives her life. And it's something I can relate to, because I've had that tendency plenty of times in my own life.
So back to adult Rose, she leaves the room, and she fades out of that memory, and we see the dilapidated house now that I can understand why the sister doesn't want to keep this house. It's not been upkept. It's in very rough shape. There's no reason to own this house.
Right. At the same time, who are you going to sell it to?
I think the plan was to just kind of sell the land.
Okay.
So she goes out to the garage and she gets a lantern, like a oil lantern. And then she barricades all the doors and the windows, and night falls, and she's left all alone in this lamplight. And that's where these scenes play out, is just in this very dark house.
So time passes, and eventually she sees the spirit of her mother.
Yeah, she finds Mom crying, and she has a conversation with Mom. Mom, she tells her it's okay, and she apologizes for being a bad mom. And She says there's something terrible inside her. She hates herself. Like, she's saying all the things that Rose probably wants to hear from her mother, right? But then she asks Rose, why did you let me die? And this is where Rose, like, lets it all out. And she's like, I didn't help you because I was afraid of you.
Right.
Like, I couldn't deal with you. Like, you were scary, and I thought you were going to hurt me.
She says she's carried the guilt of what happened to her mother all that time, and that she has to let it go. And she also says this is not real.
She says this isn't real, but Mom says your mind makes it real.
Yes.
And as Rose is backing out of the room, Mom transforms into the character credited as Nightmare Mom. And Nightmare Mom follows her. Nightmare Mom is played by Kevin Kepi. He's in 2 episodes of Cabinet of Curiosities. He's in 4 episodes of Evil. His whole filmography looked like dark stuff.
You know, Evil is a show that I think I should check out at some point. Maybe we should discuss on this channel because it looks interesting. I've seen a lot of credits for Evil on our watch throughs. But yeah, so
yeah, Nightmare Mom is very nightmarish.
Yeah.
We went from this, small woman actress to this very lanky, creepy looking actor who took over, the character of Mom. And Nightmare Mom is just kind of following her around the house, down some stairs, and then sneaks up behind her, throws her across the room, and chokes her. And she's told, you cannot escape your own mind. And then that lantern, of course, has to come into play, and the room catches on fire from the lantern falling over, just like what happens in Haunting in Connecticut 2.
yes,
Which we will talk about. Is that releasing later than this one?
yes, I believe that's airing next, actually.
All right, so check that one out, because it's
Yeah.
a very similar situation with a fire caused by a lantern. Rose pulls Nightmare Mom's hand away and breaks her arm, and the entity just starts burning in the fire. And Rose leaves the house. The creature is crawling in the fire. She thinks that
she's won.
She thinks it's
Yeah,
over. She
yeah.
thinks she killed the entity and she's safe now.
And the
she,
audience
she
think
drives
the same thing.
to Joel's house.
Yeah. So, on the one hand, it made sense for the movie to end this way for me. It made sense. Okay, you confronted your trauma, and that's how you defeat the entity. Unfortunately, that's not how it goes.
Well, because, you can't
Yeah.
defeat curses that easily,
Right.
right?
So she goes and sees Joel.
Yeah, and he's taken aback by her appearance. She tells him, so she apologizes to him for them breaking up, basically. She says she's always been afraid of letting people get too close, afraid that they might, what they might see in her. And is she referring to, like, what happened with her mom? Is that her trauma that she's hiding at this point?
I think it's kind of like me, where I have trouble letting people in because I don't trust them to look, deep into me and, like what's there. I think maybe that's kind of... She doesn't feel like she would be accepted if the people knew the real her, is what I think she's saying here.
So she says that when she met him, she felt her walls coming down, and it scared her.
Yeah.
So she pushed him away. In other words, what I'm getting is, hey, they actually had something, and she kind of regrets that.
Yeah.
She apologizes for being selfish then, and for being selfish now, because she wants to stay here, and asks him if he can just stay with her while she sleeps.
And he says,
He says, of course he will. And that seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
It seems, even though you think you won, it seems like a bad idea to let him do that.
Right.
It seems like a bad idea for him to say yes.
Except it's not really him.
Right.
In the
We
first
quickly
place.
learn it's not really him, although I do
Yeah.
think he would have said yes.
Yeah, he's kind of a sucker. And he's definitely someone who would...
He says,
Yeah.
I'll stay with you forever, in a very creepy way. And she realizes the mistake she made. He starts smiling. It's not over.
Right.
And she runs out of the apartment, except she's still at the old house. She's outside of the house now. She never drove to his apartment. None of that ever happened.
Right. This was all in her mind. She's still at the house. The house didn't burn down. The real Joel drives up.
Yeah, because he figured out where she's at.
Yeah.
And he cares about her, so he's come to check on her.
Yeah.
And remember, he hasn't been told, like, if you kill somebody,
Right.
like, he doesn't know he don't know what's going on here at all.
It's unfortunate. She runs into the building trying to keep him out because her whole reason to be here is to not infect somebody else.
Right. And
But
she
now-
realizes, like,
Yeah.
that this whole thing's been set up
Yeah.
to give it to him. And so she locks herself in the house. He's pounding to get in. Nightmare Mom is there again, approaches Rose, and it rips its face off.
Ouchie.
And then I'm assuming this is where we switch to the next character, which is called the Monstrosity. So we switch actors yet again, because not only is the face ripped off the next time we see this creature, but like all of Mom's skin has been fled at this point. It's a entirely different creature that looks like just bloody muscle disgustingness, like it ripped its whole skin off. And the Monstrosity is played by Marty Matalis.
That's my best guess.
Marty Matalis, who is in 33 episodes of Evil. He has a lot of Star Trek credits.
Oh, really?
He was in 3 episodes of Picard.
Okay.
3 episodes of Enterprise. He was in Star Trek Nemesis and Star Trek Insurrection, playing all different characters.
Interesting.
Tons of different characters. He was also in 7 episodes of American Horror Story. He played Piggy Man.
Oh, okay.
In what was that? Was that Roanoke that Piggy Man was in?
Piggy Man was the first season. It was Murder House. Wait.
7 episodes. I think that's
Roanoke. No. So, yes.
I think that's the Piggy Man in Roanoke.
Piggy Man was like a character off thing in the first season.
Yeah,
so,
like one episode. Yeah, so I think it... Or, I don't even know. Was it the same? I don't know. It was 7 episodes. So, I think this actor just plays, like, creepy characters, you know, things that involve weird makeup. And I'm guessing he played so many different characters in Star Trek because he must have a weirdly shaped body that's easy to turn into, like, some of these different alien races. I'm going to guess his characters are probably not human for the most part.
I'm going to have to check into that. I'm kind of curious now.
Just seeing his credits, I'm assuming, like, he's just somebody who's, like, spends a lot of time in makeup.
You're right.
So, yeah, the Monstrosity now goes and grabs Rose by the mouth. And it's a super creepy image. It happens really fast, but grabs, like, one hand on the bottom jaw, one hand on the top of her mouth, and, like, rips her face open and climbs inside her mouth.
Right.
Crazy imagery.
Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering if this was, like, a metaphor for mental issues, like, consuming you or something along those lines. Beats me on that one.
So right after that happens, Joel manages finally to break into the house. He's been trying, and but the house is silent.
Yep.
There's nothing happening in this house. The lantern is on the floor, undisturbed. Everything's perfectly calm. And Rose, who is now like Smiley Rose, as I credit her, she's just standing in the corner. She just got done pouring a bucket of gasoline. Yeah,
that's not good for your health. And then we don't actually see this happen, but Joel sees her set herself on fire.
We see it through a reflection in his eyeball.
Yeah.
Which I thought was an amazing shot.
Yeah.
So we're looking in his eyes, and we can see in his eye the reflection of her lighting herself on fire. And it's not her killing herself. It's the Smiley entity killing her.
She's already dead.
She's gone. Yeah. He took over, and the entity kills Rose in front of Joel, and presumably Joel now has it. And that's where we end. Our last scene is this reflection through Joel's eyeball.
Now, I will say, once again, that Parker Finn has not done much yet, but this man has talent. He's definitely going to have a future in the movie industry or whatever he chooses to do. He definitely has some talent for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know a lot about where we're going with the sequel, but Joel does make an appearance. Whether he's
credited,
whether he survived and explains to this girl how he survived, or like you said, maybe he did die and he appears as a Smiley.
Maybe he's the friend that dies at the beginning of the movie.
Maybe he's the friend that dies at the beginning of the movie. I'm not sure. But I definitely want to see it and see where they go with this. Now, I do have a list. I have a very long list, actually.
Okay.
Not as long as some of the things we've done, but of uncredited actors.
All right.
And based on these character descriptions, I feel like what we're dealing with here is not a lot of background actors, but I feel like these are more a case of we had some deleted scenes.
Okay.
Excuse me. So I feel like there are scenes that were cast, possibly filmed, where people contractually were supposed to get credits, but they only ended up with as uncredited credits because a lot of these I can't figure out where these would have happened. So I'm just going to read off the character and the actor. I'm not going through credits for these people like their other IMDb's, but we had a psychiatric patient played by Elaine Aprizes. We had another nurse played by Irene Blackman. That first one was Eileen. This one was Irene. Security guard played by Brandon Brigman. A driver / pedestrian. I don't understand that credit. Played by Seti Brazzavelt. We had a cocktail party guest played by Stephen Bollock. A bartender played by Sebastian Dierkop. Fiance bro played by Daniel Irmis. Drug party girl played by Shania Littimore. A pedestrian played by Bob Leszak. I apologize, I'm saying all these names wrong probably. A cocktail party guest played by Jerry LeBreau. A nurse played by Michelle Perziano. Another nurse played by Nadia Ramdas. A little girl played by Athena Smiley.
Ooh.
A prison guard played by Scott Teller. Another prison guard played by Joseph Tornator. And a brash colleague played by Rachel Young.
So, some of those make sense.
Some of them make sense, like the patients and the nurses.
But it sounds like there's a party that never actually occurs.
Some kind of party with drugs and a bartender, and we didn't get that scene.
No.
As well as like a pedestrian / driver. I don't get that at all, but yeah. There were some other people involved in this film. So there they are.
All right. And if we ever run across them, we'll we'll talk about them again for sure. All right, so that was the film. It was a
good one.
Yeah.
It was good. Like I said, it was a lot of jump scares. That was the main thing they were, leaning into was trying to get us through the jump scares. But lots of creepy imagery, lots of just kind of unsettling moments.
Yes.
Lots of moments of quiet and calm where we're just kind of watching her do her thing and lose her mind and be scared by jump scares. And we have a poor dead kitty cat.
Yes. No kitty cats were actually harmed.
I mean, I think the big takeaway from this is a horror film where she doesn't make it. The main character does not become the final girl.
Nope.
She dies.
Yep.
She failed.
She did.
Now, we do have a character that is technically still alive at the end, but his fate doesn't seem great.
Yeah. Women will get you killed.
It's it's an interesting film. And it is different and unique from most other films. Even though it does kind of follow a pattern that we do see in other films. Like, it's not completely original, obviously.
It's more of an arty horror film, if you will.
Artsy.
Artsy is what I meant to say, yes.
Yeah, it's a fun one. Yeah. And I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. All right, so do we have anything else to say before moving on?
I don't think so. Specifically, though, we want to know your thoughts.
Yes.
Because our plan is to come back at the end of the month and kind of rehash everything we covered and talk about all of the comments that all of you left on all of these films.
Which is hopefully quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Yeah, give us something to talk about, please.
Yeah,
we want to know what you think of the movie and the podcast and everything under the sun. Just talk to us.
Yeah.
Leave some comments.
So as of now, this is actually the last one that we are recording, but the third to air. Because we just filmed them and then we decided which order to put them in. So next up after this is Haunting in Connecticut and
Part 2.
And
which doesn't take place in Connecticut.
Right, we'll cover all about that, talk all about that. And then Kids vs. Aliens after that. We might do another one. We're not really sure.
So just check out the playlist. There's lots of great stuff on there, as well as everything else on our channel, including From, again, which you're gonna love if you love this movie. It's in the horror creepy genre, and other stuff that we cover. We cover Quantum Leap, Sullivan's Crossing. We did some Stephen King in there a little bit, and lots of great stuff.
Yeah, we're talking, and we're not sure if this is happening by now. You'll know whether this happened or not, but we're also talking about covering the series Teacup, which is a Peacock original, which should be interesting.
Yeah. We'll see if it happens.
Right.
It's either there or it's not already. So if it's there, go watch it.
Yeah. All right. So we'd like to hear from you. Stacie, we reach from or at?
Can be reached at Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, the number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee. You can join the Core Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as hitting the bell to get notified when new content drops, and you can subscribe to my channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Corn Productions, signing off.